Hello again, wrestling fans, and welcome to episode number 154 of the Scumbags of Wrestling podcast. My name is Sean, and I'm coming to you from London, Ontario, Canada, and I want to welcome you for joining us wherever you are. We are live right now on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and we're available all over the place on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcasts from. I want to thank you for being with us tonight. We unfortunately lost our episode last week. Uh, Health issues in the family, and family comes first over wrestling. We did get a preview of AEW Double or Nothing out on Sunday, so hopefully you joined us for that. And we are brought to you by CoolBet. All our shows want to remind you to stay cool and bet responsibly. They not only sponsor our shows such as this podcast and This Week in History, along with our Fantasy Warfare tournament, but they also are the proud sponsors of this championship belt and our Scumbags Predictions League, where you can earn points just by watching pay-per-views, whether it's WWE, Impact Wrestling, AEW, or NXT, and earn points just by picking who you think is going to win and sitting back and enjoying the show. Like I said, I just want to remind everybody, health-wise, reach out to people that you love or know. Ask them how they're doing. If you're not feeling well, reach out to people. Go to the doctor, do what you need to do, but we're almost at the end of COVID. More things are opening up. If you're here in Ontario, the stay-home orders are done, and we're apparently going to start 3 stages of opening up businesses. So get your shots, stay patient, and get out there and do what you need to do, but also check in on people and make sure that they're healthy. Like I said, we ended up missing our news from last week. I'm going to touch on some of it, just whatever's relevant, and get your opinion. If you go to our Facebook page right now, you can also click a link and join us in the show and have your say of what you think is going on. Some of the things, including AEW's Double or Nothing pay-per-view, what you thought of it. Also, with the recent releases that happened just yesterday, and the speculation that WWE is going to be put up for sale. So you can find that link. You can pop up down below, and I'll bring you into the show, and you can have your say and thoughts on the news. And you don't have to download anything to be a part of it. Just click the button, and you're in. But I'm going to start with some of the news. Steven might join us in a little bit. He's just finishing up dinner. Last time I talked to him about a half hour ago, 40 minutes. So we'll see if he's available to join us, and might backtrack on a couple of things to get his opinion. But yesterday, as I said, WWE released 6 more talent from the main roster. Those releases included Braun Strowman, who just recently challenged at WrestleMania Backlash for the WWE Championship alongside Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. So he's gone. Aleister Black, who was just brought back telling stories, and we saw him make an appearance on SmackDown, kicking Big E, costing him his chance of getting the Intercontinental title back, and then he wasn't on last week's show. Now he's totally gone. Then Lana got put through the table for multiple weeks in a row, was learning to do better, teaming with Naomi, and now she's gone. Murphy, he's been lost in the shuffle ever since the whole story with Mysterios and the relationship with Aaliyah went to the wayside. And they even briefly brought him back as a heel to be with Seth Rollins. Gone. Santana Garrett, she was doing training down in NXT and helping the next generation. She's been released. And one that surprised me as well was Ruby Riott, one half of the Riot Squad. She's been released. So looking at the list, I wasn't overly surprised about Braun. He's a big guy, but somewhat limited on what he can do. Where do you put him now that he's out of the world title run? You can't keep on bouncing back between Raw and SmackDown. And there's some people that they run into a spot where they can't go any further, and maybe it's best for them to find another place to go and then be able to come back. I thought that with people like Randy Orton and others who have been there forever, but how can we miss you if you don't leave? How do you get better? When there was WCW and WWE, you could go to another organization and do a run there and come back like a hero, depending on your status. And right now, that's not really happening. There are guys being released by WWE, and AEW is picking up some, Impact is picking up some, but not everybody can find a new home in that regards. But yeah, these six are gone. This is adding up to more that were released from NXT last month. The ones that were released in April and Black Wednesday, plus 60 office workers were released last week. They were in digital media and creation, stuff like that. And I guess they're falling under a different umbrella. There were people overlapping each other with jobs, and Kevin Dunn, God help us, is now going to be overseeing more of that and getting more power. But also Tony Khan, not Tony Khan, Nick Khan, wrong Khan. But Nick Khan is getting more power in WWE, even getting a seat on the board, and he's been now overseeing things with the international combinations and deals that way. And a lot of people are speculating with the consolidation of certain jobs and these releases that it looks like Vince McMahon is getting ready to sell WWE. Um, I hope that doesn't happen. I hope it stays within the family because it's been multi generations with the family, whether it's Steph and Triple H, whether it's Shane McMahon, both uh, units combining and all three of them running it. I want it to stay in the family. It's just such a tradition for all these years. I'd understand Vince McMahon finally stepping down, but at the same time, I'd see him dying there. But where do you see it selling to if it does? We just saw a deal with Peacock where they got all their content there. Could NBC and Peacock do it? There's talk that Disney could do it, Amazon. There's so many different big companies out there that may or may not want to have WWE under their umbrella, but will it actually happen? And you know, what will change if that does happen? Hopefully, change for the best if it does happen. I do think they do need some freshening up. As much as I respect and admire Vince McMahon, met the man, and I just think it's time to get some fresher ideas. I love Bruce Pritchard as well, but it doesn't seem to be a good combination right now. I want to get rid of Kevin Dunn. There's so many people's careers that have, I think, been for the worst because of Kevin Dunn and his lack of vision for them, and that stunted them compared to what they were able to do in NXT. Obviously, people running NXT see more in these talents, but then when they get brought up to quote unquote the main roster, it kind of destroys them. And I don't like seeing that. So if you want to send us a message, scumbagswrestling at gmail.com, or go to our Facebook page. Join us live right now. Have your say on what do you think is going to happen. Will Vince McMahon sell? And also, what do you think about these recent releases? Let us know, and we'll definitely bring you in. WWE could be also hinting at a return of Brock Lesnar soon. He was mentioned by Kofi Kingston and Drew McIntyre on their build up to their match this past Monday, which was a number one contenders match for Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell. We saw obviously Drew McIntyre come out on top, so we'll see Lashley against McIntyre at Hell in a Cell in a couple of weeks. But even Lashley was talking about him on Raw Talk, wondering why is everybody bringing up Brock when he's not even there and he's the champion. Sounds like they're bringing up his name a lot and could be in time for SummerSlam. And we've already known that Lashley did come back to WWE hoping to get a match against Brock Lesnar. This could be that opportunity, and they're doing the setup that way. Just wait and see what's going on with that. But speaking of the match with Drew and Kofi, they were hitting each other really hard during the commercial break. They had to check on Kofi with his knee. He was able to continue on going in time for them to come back from commercial. And then he ended up hitting Drew really hard, and Drew got a black eye out of it. These guys were not holding back on Monday night, and it was really appreciated backstage when they made it back to Gorilla. They were welcomed by different talent, congratulating them on having a great match. Over in AEW, both Paul White and now Mark Henry are working there, and both have been wanting to have at least one more match and didn't think they were going to be able to do so in WWE. And they also want to do some coaching, and they're both now going to be doing commentary on different AEW shows. And they might end up working together, either commentary or in the ring, to have that last match, or they might put over a younger talent. What would you like to see? Do you want to see these guys battle out in AEW, or do you want to see them put over younger talent to get their last matches in, but still have relevancy in wrestling? I guess there's been a lot of memes going on as well, where you see that Randy Orton makes fun of somebody, berates them, and next thing you know, they're over in AEW. It's happened with Matt Hardy, Christian, Big Show, Paul White, and now Mark Henry. Uh, I guess the lesson is don't get in confrontation with Randy Orton and be belittled by him unless you want to go to AEW, because that seems to be where to go. Sheamus broke his nose this past week on Raw in his match against Ricochet and Humberto Carrillo, when Carrillo ended up accidentally kicking him really hard in the face, and you saw the blood on Sheamus's face when that match ended. But he said he's still going to be around kicking ass, and he's not giving up the title anytime soon. With disposing of Carrillo and Ricochet like he did before, of course, they both got fluke wins this past week, but is he going to continue with this feud, or who else will step up and go against Sheamus? It's odd for a heel to be doing the open challenges like he is, but also he's going against the 205 small guys. So I don't know. I think he deserves a lot better, Sheamus, meaning him. But yeah, they just need a little more direction. 3 hours or not. Raw seems to have a lack of direction that SmackDown doesn't have, and obviously NXT doesn't have either. Matt Riddle could be getting his dream match with Goldberg at SummerSlam, even though they said it never happened. If somebody's paying you to do the job, you're pretty much getting booked to do it one way or another. And Goldberg is due to come back in time for SummerSlam. It's going to be in front of a crowd, and he's supposed to do 2 matches a year. So this would be the opportune time for that to happen. It could be going against Riddle. He's been getting a big push with doing the Arcade Bro, but that's not going to last long, and expect Randy Orton to turn on Riddle eventually and have a feud between the two, even though they're trading back and forth their own finishers. Anything's possible going on with that. The Miz was back on Raw this past Monday. It was been reported that he had a tear of his ACL. Thankfully, it was not a full tear, or he would have been off for about 9 months and having to get around on crutches. But it's only a partial one, so he still can't wrestle, but he can at least show up at shows, and he's offering his services as a manager until that time. When that does finish, I though see him getting into a feud with John Morrison that's been long overdue. I think they were hinting at it, but prior to that matchup with Damian Priest and the Zombies, but because of the injury they had, that story's been put on hold for now. So let's hope Miz gets healed soon, and we have a good storyline between these two good friends, Miz and Morrison. Spanish commentator over in AEW, Willie Urbina, was released from AEW after racist comments were heard on the Spanish commentary of AEW Dynamite this past Friday night on Fight. Somehow their microphones were still left open, and people were able to hear, at least in the Spanish commentary, uh, him mocking Hikaru Shida's accent while speaking English, and it was very racist and stereotypical of Asian talking. Uh, I didn't hear it, but yeah, just uncalled for. Shida did not respond to it until after the fact, but Tony Khan was quick to fire Urbina quickly and saying that this is not acceptable behavior, especially in his company. So hopefully he learns a lesson, and that won't happen ever again for anybody for that matter. Other than Urbina, Awesome Kong is also gone from AEW. She was injured during the fourth season taping of Glow. I think they only got like 2 episodes in before Netflix pulled the plug on them, and so those episodes were scrapped. She was injured while filming. She was welfare queen over on Glow and had not appeared in AEW in well over a year because of this injury. And now that her contract is up, uh, she is not going to be with them. I'm not even sure if she's cleared to return to the ring at all, but we'll see what happens with the future of Awesome Kong, where she turns up, or if she's going to be done with the business altogether. You mentioned about Nick Khan getting uh, more responsibilities in WWE and now has a board spot thanks to Vince endorsing him. Vince McMahon also apparently asked talent to go back to the PC during their days off to get basically ring rust off and get them prepared for going back on the road, which is going to happen next month, part of their 25-day tour or 25 dates tour, going basically from middle of July all the way up to about Labor Day-ish, I believe, are those 25 days. And I think this weekend, during the horse race, we're supposed to find out where WWE is going to be holding SummerSlam. We know that it's going to be on a Saturday, August 21st, but where is it going to be? Because it's also the same night that there is a huge boxing match going on. I'll have more details on that later on, but just where is it going to be? Who knows? They say it's going to be a destination location, so it could be anywhere in Florida, California. Vegas has been a top one, but that's where also the boxing is going on. Could be back over in New York with the MSG. A lot of things are opening up in the United States, unlike here in Canada, or at least on a slower pace in Canada than they are in the US, because we just saw a full house for Double or Nothing. But yeah, so that's what's going on with SummerSlam. But he's wanting talent to go back and get ring rust off and make them ready for audiences again. Some of the talent aren't too happy with it, but when they're only working once or twice a week for the last year, and it's been in front of TV cameras minus WrestleMania and monitors with the Thunderdome, it might be a good plan just to get some rust off, because there was some shaky moments during WrestleMania. Might have been some nerves going into there, and it's understandable considering it was a big moment, WrestleMania and live audience. So Vince might have an idea with that, but you never know how much one person needs over another. Molly Holly was backstage on Monday, and she's trying out for a producer role. people are happy with her progress so far, and she'll end up learning more as time goes on and getting ready for going back on the road. Because even though they've been releasing a lot of people, they are going to need producers again to go out on the road with these house shows and TV shows. Um, and once they're able to do more, and they are split again, because some of the shows are going to be super shows, and that's going to have both rosters on them. But they will eventually split off to the SmackDown and Raw trains again, and they're going to need those producers available. And somebody like Molly Holly would definitely be a fresh perspective on some of the productions that have happened going on, different producers. So we'll see that going forward. And Mark Henry pitched ideas for working in WWE recently, and he said on Busted Open Radio, they've been talking about ideas to Vince, and Vince was really receptive to him. Vince and him have a relationship going back to the '96 Olympics, and knowing him that long. So he was receptive to some ideas, but then with the different cuts going on, Mark thought it'd be best to not try and stay with WWE. Went back and talked to Vince. Vince agreed and gave him sort of a blessing to go elsewhere, aka AEW, which now we saw this past Sunday when he was announced to be a broadcaster for the new show that's coming up. I want to say Revolution, but it's not that. Um, it's slipping my mind at the moment. But the new show that's going to be Friday nights at 10 on TNT, moving over to TBS later on, and then also being a coach. So we'll see Mark Henry hanging around with Tony Khan and AEW for the foreseeable future, because there was a multi-year deal that he signed with that. People are upset with Cody Rhodes having a Pride shirt, wondering why there isn't an AEW one or a shirt representing the LGBTQ2S plus talent like Sonny Kiss, Nyla Rose, and others. It's been said that by Brandy Rhodes that anybody can make their own T-shirts and be put up for sale for their charities if they want, but so far Cody's the only one that's done so, and Cody is donating the profits from his shirt to Transgender Equality Organization. So if you want to support that t-shirt, it is Cody Rhodes, and it has his logo, the one that's on his neck, with the rainbow pride colors with it. So that's available to support the LGBTQ2S community and transgender equality. So go out and find that. Probably a link on AEW.com or AllEliteWrestling.com, I believe was their actual email or website. Fast and Furious 9 or Fast 9 movie is doing very poorly in the movie theaters over in Taiwan, since Cena's blunder of calling Taiwan country and upsetting a lot of people on both sides of the world, because people in China are upset that he called it a country, and that's why he quickly apologized, and it was very groveling and very, I don't know, just really bad image. He kept on apologizing, and just was sort of kissing their ass a lot. And that's fine if that's what he felt that he needed to do, but it seemed like it was a lot overboard, and a lot of people are also upset over on this side of the world that he was so quickly to bend over and suck up to the Chinese government and people for just what he ended up saying. People like CM Punk, JBL, and a bunch of others are upset. It also upset people in the Hollywood and movie area, so it may or may not have repercussion on what's going on with the movie when it premieres here in North America. But at the same time, it hasn't gotten very good reviews. I guess they're going into outer space somehow. And John Cena is playing the brother to one of the main characters. And yeah, I have not followed the Fast and Furious series. My friend that I work with, Nathan, has and keeps on encouraging me to watch them. But yeah, I don't know. Just seems to be a little bit hokey, and we're getting up to Jason 10 sort of uh, territory where Jason was in space. So now Fast and Furious is in space. I don't get it, but it's not for me to get. Some of the news from last week now is that Finn Balor seems to be done with his time in NXT run, and it looks like he's going to be heading back up to the main roster, whether it's Raw or SmackDown, has not been confirmed yet. But Finn was recently on Ryan Satin's Out of Character podcast, where he talked about wanting to go back to the main roster. Uh, he brought up wanting to get back into the ring with AJ Styles. They only had one WWE match, and that was in 2017 at TLC when AJ was sent to replace Bray Wyatt. Bray was supposed to be Sister Abigail that night and got sick, and so they quickly sent AJ Styles to be there. And they were both Bullet Club members in Japan, but never at the same time. They were both leaders of Bullet Club too. They had a decent match when it was a Demon versus AJ Styles, and if he goes back up to the main roster, this could happen again and be a good highlight attraction match and feud to have going forward. Not only will Dynamite be on TNT tomorrow night at 10 o'clock, it will be also doing a few other moves in time, depending on the NBA schedule with their playoffs. So, unfortunately, with TNT, they are a major outlet for the basketball, and they're shifting around. So, tomorrow night, they're going to be on TNT at 10 o'clock after SmackDown. I've heard also that they might be recording some more episodes during this time and having a little bit of a stockpile and getting a rest while they regroup in a way and get ready for going on the road, which I believe they're going on the road July 7th with their first show with live crowd in Miami, and then the 14th in Austin, Texas, and the 21st in Dallas. So they're going to be getting ready for that. And of course, they're going to end up eventually having, oh, there we go, it's Rampage, which Mark Henry is going to be commentary on. And that's going to be Fridays at 10 on TNT once everything gets straightened around. That debuts Friday the 13th of August. With that show, and it's not going to be a supplementary show from what Tony Khan said. It's going to be a full out show complementing Dynamite, not be a secondary show like, say, a main event for WWE or how Heat was or Velocity or anything like that. They already have that with Dark and Dark Evolution. Dynamite and Rampage are going to be A shows in their case. But of course, we know that next year they're also moving to TBS, and the TNT title has been also said that it's not going to change name, even though it's moving to the other network. So that's what they want to end up doing, and that's the future for the schedule with Dynamite going forward at the moment. Just keep on watching your listings to know when it's going to be on. We'll try and keep you caught up on that. WWE recently released the 35 people in digital media promotions. Kevin Dunn getting more power there. Alexa Bliss missed Raw 2 episodes ago. She was back this past week, but she ended up missing the week before because her beloved pet pig, Larry Steve, was very ill, and she was seeking medical attention from him. Unfortunately, treatment was denied by the vet that was normally dealing with him because of his mobility issues and how big he got. Larry Steve was not even moving, I guess, at one point. But by the time someone did come to help, it was unfortunately too late, and Larry Steve passed away. And Alexa posted a video on Twitter afterwards. Our condolences obviously go out to Alexa at the time. And Larry was first seen on Total Divas when Alexa was part of the cast, and even had his own Instagram account. So, yeah, unfortunately, Larry Steve, pet pig, passed away, beloved pet of Alexa Bliss. Ted DiBiase is continuing being on NXT. A couple weeks ago, he was on there bidding on houses, showing off watches. Ended up showing up at NXT, and before he could do anything, LA Knight interrupted, and they ended up walking out together, and DiBiase laughing at Grimes. More interaction with him this week, and it's leading up to TakeOver, where there's going to be Grimes versus Knight, and Ted DiBiase's legacy, possibly the $1 million title, will be brought up. Well, that's going to happen at TakeOver in Your House coming up a week from this Sunday. And that's going to be on the WWE Network. So Ted DiBiase's been around for a bit, and we'll see where or how much longer he is doing that after TakeOver. Velveteen Dream was released. We didn't get a chance to talk about that last week. He got his release from WWE last week and a half ago, and he then wrote a lengthy post on Instagram explaining his side of his Me Too accusation that he got called out on last year. He basically claimed that there was two teens trying to get into wrestling, and he'd been asking business questions that got put out there, making him look like a predator. And when one of the people ended up getting a concussion, he advised him to not return to wrestling until he cleared up. And that guy did not want that advice. And that's when Dream stopped communicating with him. These other guys started talking with each other. And yeah, that's where some of the Me Too stuff came out. Whether you believe his side of the story or the other side's, that's going to be up for debate and obviously court of public opinion. WWE said that they did some investigating, came up with nothing, brought him back, and there was a lot of backlash on him on WWE for bringing him back in. And so then he was taken off again. He was seen recently backstage talking with Shawn Michaels, and it was speculated whether or not he was going to be brought up to the main roster when he was doing that. But then, obviously, he got released. There's been talk that some of his release was not obviously due to the Me Too movement. It was due to certain attitudes and behaviors backstage that rubbed people the wrong way. And it was almost described as pre-WrestleMania 14 Shawn Michaels style of attitude and carrying himself around, not the current Shawn Michaels that we know who found religion. So if he's being a pain in the ass that way, if those rumors are true, then yeah, thanks for coming out, Patrick Clark, and we'll see if anybody else wants to hire Patrick Clark in the future, or if he's going to have the same sort of stench as a Joey Ryan currently has. So that's up to other promoters to go from there. Triple H claimed that their investigation came up nothing. Sorry. Even though WWE cleared out some talent on NXT with releases a couple weeks ago, it looks like NXT could have more space cleared up, as there's going to be talent brought up from NXT to the main roster. I just mentioned Finn Balor as being part of that idea. Not sure who else would be brought up from NXT, because we just saw Adam Cole even return to NXT this past week and get himself into that 5-way main event. So anybody hoping for Adam Cole to be brought up, that's not happening either. So all I know is I just hope that These call-ups are given a chance to thrive, and especially when they need to impress Kevin Dunn, of all people. Will Ospreay suffered a neck injury in a match with Shingo Takagi that lasted 45 minutes in their match to retain the IWGP Championship. However, the neck injury, he's had to relinquish the title and return home to the UK to recover. At the same time, there might be more to the story as Japan is also in the midst of another huge COVID outbreak. And this and trying to juggle shows and plans and different things have been canceled. I'm not sure if Dominion is actually going to be happening. The Road to Dominion, I think, was canceled and postponed even by a day. But yeah, that I think that's coming up this next weekend if it is happening. But with the breakout with COVID and talent having to be dropped and how things have been handled, a lot of people are getting really frustrated with the rules also of how COVID is being handled. And there was wondering if Ospreay could be one of the talents not happy and totally leaving New Japan for now. I've even saw rumors about him leaving New Japan and joining NXT UK, along with rumors that his girlfriend, Bea Priestley, was also supposed to be joining NXT UK. So it could be a power couple doing that if everything goes right and he ends up getting healed. Who knows? That's still up in the air. Depends on if he has also a good contract with New Japan that he can't get out of. So we'll just wait and see what happens with Will Ospreay after his injury heals up. People are wondering what WWE are doing with the Viking Raiders, as they haven't been used much since the return. There could be a program coming up soon for them, as during the Lumberjack match that Priest had with John Morrison. The Viking Raiders had a run-in and confrontation with T-Bar and Mace, and that could spin off into a feud. But we saw T-Bar and Mace destroy Lucha House Party this past Monday, while the Viking Raiders were back with Mansoor, trying to encourage him to come up with a roar and a way to impress people when they return back to the road. So totally two different directions for those two teams. If they end up crossing paths, we'll see what goes on. It could be definitely a very hard-hitting matchups when they do collide, if they do. There was a lot of backlash from AEW's Jim Ross when he claimed Randy Orton was the best in the world, and he had people like Chris Jericho and Matt Hardy tweeting out about how Kenny Omega is the best in the world and how he's the most protected champion and belt collector and all this other stuff. And I guess even because of that backlash this past Sunday on Double or Nothing, Jim Ross said, well, if Kenny Omega can end up retaining the championship against Pac and Cassidy, then he truly could be or would be the greatest in the world of wrestling. So as much as he said on his podcast, it's his opinion. He also backpedaled and tried putting it over to Kenny just to appease people, knowing that Kenny was going to end up winning his match. Clearly, was not going to be dropping those titles to any of those titles to Orange Cassidy or Pac, especially at this time when he's trying to be a belt collector. A little too early in the process for that. This week we saw the debut of Jimmy Smith on Raw. He took over for Adnan Virk. Adnan Virk was released a week ago, and it was stated that it being a mutual agreement between Virk and WWE, many fans had hoped that Tom Phillips would return to TV and take that spot back. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, as he also got released from WWE after many years of service with them. I think almost 10 years or something like that. He spent with WWE. Was announced, as I said, Jimmy Smith making his debut this past Monday. and taking over lead spot on Raw, sitting beside Corey Graves and Byron Saxton. He had a lot more success than Adnan Virk on his first run at being commentator for Raw, and it goes back to being a commentator for UFC. So at least he knows combat fighting in the regards, and it's a reverse of roles for him because I think he was just color commentator. Now he's a lead commentator doing play-by-play for Raw, but he'd also been working with Shane McMahon and a couple of others. I think also Michael Cole on doing stuff before being thrown out there on Raw, unlike what Adnan Virk ended up having to do. So hopefully that works out for Jimmy and lasts more than 7 weeks, unlike Virk. Yeah, I was going to speculate on any surprises for AEW with Double or Nothing usually having surprises on. And I guess the only surprises we really had were Leo Rush and Mark Henry, two guys who really don't like each other behind the scenes. But if they're going to be in the same company, they're going to have to find some common ground somehow. And some of the big news that came out last week, also just before I was supposed to record, was that Dave Meltzer could be possibly, I don't know, he just worded it in a way that was totally Dave Meltzer speculating. But he did talk about the fact that WWE and New Japan have been in some sort of talks to possibly be exclusive deal with each other for New Japan being exclusive to WWE in North America. This also is possibly because Daniel Bryan bringing up the fact that he wants to work in New Japan and fight certain people before he ends up hanging up his boots once and for all. But at the same time, as Nick Khan is having these conversations, Tony Khan ended up having a promo with Tony Schiavone, and it was more in character than being just the businessman Tony Khan. But he did a video mocking the report, saying that AEW has solid connections with New Japan, and cited all the recent activity between AEW and New Japan, and having a lot more plans in the future, especially with the U.S. title currently held by Jon Moxley, and that there's only one room for one Khan in WWE in wrestling, and it's him, not the other Khan. And he almost also insulted Vince, calling him a con artist at the same time. He just really came off for a guy who did not want to be a character. He came off really arrogant and silver spoon, snot nose brat billionaire instead of being a respectable business person to just refute the claims. So it's coming from Dave Meltzer. You never know these things. And even though with the great relationship Meltzer seems to have with AEW, for AEW to publicly call this out and say it's bullshit, it's just going to be a matter of time. WWE's reshuffling their decks. It could be for a reason to free up space to include New Japan guys. You never know until it actually happens. But at least it's a WWE versus AEW feud that's happening over possession of New Japan. And I just mentioned about the fact that WWE 25 tour dates, they picked August 21st, which is Saturday for SummerSlam, but not an actual destination until this week at the Belmont Stakes. They're going to do a pre-race show and announce it then. It's also the same night as Manny Pacquiao versus Spence Jr. So, yeah, there's going to be competition for viewers, whether you pay $50 to $60 for a boxing or WWE Network for SummerSlam. And Cardi B is rumored to be the host of SummerSlam. She's tweeted about WWE recently, and Stephanie said that she reached out to Cardi B as well. So who knows? But that is when SummerSlam is supposed to happen. I'll be back in just a second and discuss a couple things coming up with Ontario and look back at AEW.
If you want a variety of wrestling news and history, look no further than the Scumbags of Wrestling family of shows. On Wednesday nights at 6 p.m., join Sean, Steven, and Jonesy as we look for the best of the best and break it all down in a unique tournament format on Fantasy Warfare Tournament. Then, Thursdays at noon, take a look back at the rich history of our great sport with This Week in History. Relive title changes, births, deaths, and some of the best events of all time. Finally, join us for the latest in wrestling news, show results, and predictions Thursday nights at 8 p.m. for the Scumbags Wrestling Podcast. The Scumbags Wrestling can be found on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Instagram, along with our audio versions on Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or anywhere else you get your podcasts from. We're a proud part of the Ontario Indie Wrestling Podcast Network and the Johners Podcast Network.
Okay, and welcome back to the show. Just had to refuel for a second and almost sneezed. So thankfully I didn't do that on there. But I just want to look back quickly at Double or Nothing. And that happened this past Sunday. I was actually able to watch it, even though I was in Windsor. I found a way of doing so. And it was odd and good to see all the fans there. Jim Ross said there might have been about 5,000 fans at the Daly's place with the amphitheater that they have. And it started off with sunlight. And so it was almost like seeing how WrestleMania 9 was. That was the feel that I got. Or even like Sturgis for WCW, or the beach breaks that they used to do with the college students. But the pre-show had Serena Deeb in a really good match with Rio, defending and retaining the NWA Women's Championship belt there. It was initially two faces against each other, but when Rio put out her hand to get shook, Serena slapped it away and set the table for her being the heel, and went after body parts and knees, and ended up getting Rio to tap out. So it was a really good way to start the show. About 15-minute match there. And then the main pay-per-view opened after bringing out Taz and JR and all them. And Hangman Adam Page, with a lot of fans behind him, chanting cowboy shit, doing a lot of high-flying moves that big men the size of Brian Cage and Adam Page should not be doing. But Adam Page picked up the victory with the buckshot lariat after members of Team Taz ended up trying to help Brian Cage, and he refused to help. And this set up some more tension within Team Taz as Brian Cage left. But Adam Page ended up getting the victory. Still very popular. Could be getting himself in line for a title shot, whether it's at All Out or later on in the year at Full Gear. But we'll have to see when that happens, because he's been very popular fixture for AEW, even though getting lost in the shuffle at times for other people. Next match of the night was the Young Bucks retaining their tag team titles over the team of Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. A lot of brawling on the outside before the match, and hard-hitting action beforehand. And then the ending came with a whole lot of knee strikes from both Matt and Nick Jackson to Moxley to get the pin on Moxley and retain their titles. Then there was the Casino Battle Royal, and they come out in suits 5 at a time. Started off with the clubs with Christian Cage, Matt Sydal, Powerhouse Hobbs, Dustin Rhodes, and Matt Caster. The Diamonds were Isaiah Cassidy, Matt Hardy, Preston Vance, aka 10, Nick Camarado, and Serpentico, who was in there, I think, for the Blade, who was injured. Then the Hearts had Brian Pillman Jr., Griff Garrison, Colt Cabana, Anthony Bowens, and Penta El Zero Monero. And Spades had Jungle Boy, Mark Quinn, Aaron Solo, Evil Uno, and Lee Johnson, with the Joker being Leo Rush. The finals came down to Leo Rush getting kicked out early after getting in there. Good pop from the fans, but it was Private Party and Matt Hardy. Then with Jungle Boy and Christian. Christian and Jungle Boy ended up getting it down to themselves, and a lot of back and forth going on, even on the ring apron. And eventually, Jungle Boy eliminated Christian and is advancing to get a title shot in 2 weeks on Dynamite. Not sure what date it's going to be, if it's going to be a Friday or back on Wednesday. They're still trying to figure that one out depending on the playoffs. But Christian ended up giving Jungle Boy a hug for winning. And of course, Marco Stunt and Luchasaurus came out to congratulate Jungle Boy on his win. And with the fact that he won, they got to play Tarzan Boy by Baltimora, which has been purchased by Tony Khan, and fans got to sing along with that, just like they did. You got to sing Wild Thing for John Moxley and Judas for Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle. The next matchup was Cody Rhodes with Arn Anderson in his corner taking on Anthony Ogogo, QT Marshall in his corner. Almost student versus teacher-ish mentality. Cody was trying to do the USA versus UK feud thing. Even with a broken rib, Anthony Ogogo on his fourth match in front of people looked good. I don't know if Cody should have ended up winning, but he did end up winning. Would have been nice to have pushed another new talent over Cody, but something's going to probably happen eventually that gets rid of Cody so he can be at home with Brandy and become a new father for a little bit. Match number 6 saw Miro, the current TNT and still TNT champion, defeat Lance Archer, who had Jake Roberts in his corner. He ended up getting a submission out of Archer. At one point, Jake came down and had a bag that they made seem like it was a snake, but Miro got away from him, swung it around, and then he threw it up the back to the tunnel, and it ended up bouncing. Clearly not a snake in there, or PETA would have been on their case about that. But this was a hard-hitting fight between the Bulgarian Brute and the Murder Hawk. Hopefully we get to see more of that. And maybe with Lana being released, we'll end up seeing CJ make her way to AEW, and we'll have another couple there once her 90-day no-compete is done. Then the one match that I did figure the title was going to change, Dr. Britt Baker with Rebel in her corner defeated Hikaru Shida. Shida had the title for over a year. Just got an upgrade for the title given to her by Tony Schiavone on Friday, only to lose it to Britt by submission. About 17 and a half minutes of matchup there. Really good. These two finally had a good match. Britt has been built up for a little while since getting her nose broken and turning heel. After the match, Tony Schiavone got up and gave her a hug because that's his friend. It didn't really make her seem too much like a heel, but I thought she should have kind of maybe brushed him off or whatever, just dissed him, just to get back some of that heel heat that she ended up losing during the match, because a lot of the fans were pulling for her and Shida. It was almost a 50-50 sound there. There wasn't many people booing Britt Baker at all, if any. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night on Dynamite to see how the fans react to Britt Baker as champion if they're going to still have her as a heel or make her flip to babyface. Darby Allin and Sting ended up defeating Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky. Can't say body-wise Sting looked the best. He definitely looked his age, 62. When he took off his shirt. People cringed when he took a suplex onto the stage and then also a crossbody off the stage. But yeah, a decent match, kind of lacking a typical ring psychology as well with some of it. If you listen to Jim Cornette take it down, I can see where he was seeing the lack of psychology using the ref for false tags and stuff like that and building up for the hot tag. But Darby Allin and Sting ended up getting the victory. And then, of course, Kenny Omega ended up defeating Orange Cassidy and Pac to retain the AEW Championship. They were making Orange Cassidy look a little bit better than probably he should have. And Kenny Omega ended up taking all 4 of his title belts from Don Callis and using them on Pac and knocking him out. Orange nearly got the pinfall, but then got crucifixed into a pinning combination by Omega to retain. Then we had the main event of the night, which was the Inner Circle taking on the Pinnacle in a Stadium Stampede match. I don't get this, to be honest. I looked, obviously it was pre-recorded. They even admitted it took a few days to put it together and record, but it was too chopped up and cinematic where, here's Guevara and Spears. Here's Pride and Powerful and FTR. Here's Jericho and Guevara and MJF. Here's Wardlow and Hager. They all had their spots, and it was just way too cinematic. I think it was like 25 minutes ish that fans were stuck watching on a screen when you end up wanting to welcome fans back. And then you show them a video, which then, when it culminated at the end, Sammy Guevara got the victory for his team, and Inner Circle didn't have to break up, but they didn't end up having everybody merge and having all 10 of them fighting, at least in Daly's place, and getting the culmination there. Eventually, Inner Circle ended up coming out and joining Guevara to celebrate, but there was so many people missing. We also had an appearance by Conan doing DJ services in a bar after after FTR and Pride and Powerful ended up toasting. So yeah, that was that whole thing. I would have reversed maybe the order and had a way, if they could have figured out a way of dropping the cage. Blood and Guts should have been in front of fans. And when you have all those fans, they should not have been doing a 25-minute video for people to watch. I don't know if people got up and left or they were just anticipating the match culminating in the amphitheater, but that's how it ended up finishing off. But I will admit, a decent pay-per-view from them. JR was kind of grumpy about things, and understandable. A few too many things going, super kicks and just unbelievable kickouts. Cody and Ogogo could have been better, and yeah, Stadium Stampede, nice visually if you're sitting at home and watching it, but I wouldn't want to do it as a fan that's paid money to go to see it in the arena. But yeah, that's what AEW presented, and people were part of the Scumbags Prediction League and putting in their predictions for the show, and a lot of them got them right. We had some 9 out of 10s going with that show. We had a couple 50-50s and 70% ones, but yeah, a really good pay-per-view for predicting, and just be sure to watch out for our other shows when we do more pay-per-views. There's always a time to join and go for that title. Remember, we're sponsored by CoolBet for everything going on with that. Their next one that we're going to end up doing is NXT TakeOver, which is happening on June 13th. This past week on NXT, we basically established 4 matches for sure that are booked to happen on that. And Raquel Gonzalez is going to defend her championship against Ember Moon. Dakota Kai will be in Raquel Gonzalez's corner, and Shotzi Blackheart in Moon's corner. Xia Li has marked Mercedes Martinez. They two fought each other at the Mae Young Classic, and they're going to have a singles match here. LA Knight against Cameron Grimes with Ted DiBiase on the line. I mentioned that earlier. And the main event is going to have Karrion Kross defending the NXT Championship in a fatal 5-way that will include Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Pete Dunne, and Johnny Gargano. So that's NXT TakeOver in your house happening on June 13th. And you can always join us for predictions on that show. Now, just want to do a couple shout outs and thank yous to those who do attend and watch these shows, whether it's Fantasy Warfare Tournament, This Week in History, this show, our Predictions League. We are definitely appreciative of your patronage, and you can always get in touch with us at all the different locations down below: Twitter, Instagram, on our website, scumbagswrestling.ca. There's also email, scumbagswrestling@gmail.com, our Facebook page, and anywhere else you get your podcast from and news. Now, happening right now, after you've listened to this show, George Mackay is celebrating 200 episodes. Straight Talk Wrestling has vidcast episode number 55, and that's having highlights of his top 10 interviews and also a lot of the shout-outs that he's received over the last couple of weeks getting ready for episode 200. So you can find that on his Facebook page, Straight Talk Wrestling, and also his YouTube page, plus all the other places you get your podcast from. And we'll move over to this one. Gilmy Talks has Cannabis Roundtable discussion with special guests Justin Sane, Aiden Rain, PD Skills, Pierre Doucette, and Ryan Knight of the Knights of the Squared Circle podcast. Schwa Wars has a resign or release edition of their podcast, going through WWE Raw and SmackDown rosters to fantasy book who they would sign or release. And as you see here, he's available on Anchor FM, Facebook.com at Schwa Wars, and also on Instagram. So check out those two great shows along with George Mackay's 200th episode. We also have HWE is bringing Country Carnage coming this summer to YouTube. Stay tuned for more details as they become available. HWE is also the home of Battle Arts Academy, and they're sure to have a summer full of action coming your way with Country Carnage. Check out Lewis Carlin with his daily dose of news on Alliance Pro Wrestling Network. That's available on Facebook and YouTube. And as you know, we are part of the Johners Podcasting Network, and the head of the Johners Podcasting Network is John Scott. Join John with Wrestling with Johners, episode number 187, and his interview with legendary UK ref Steve Linsky. That's happening right now over on Johners Podcast. That happens on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And catch episodes of Memphis Continental Wrestling cast on Podbean. I believe they are going back and looking at different episodes of old Memphis wrestling. And right after this, because we are at 9:10, you can check out Such Good Shoot happening at 10 p.m. And Isaac, Shane, and Dozer are going to welcome Duke the Dumpster Drosy to their show. It's available on their Facebook page at 10 p.m. I would also like to give a quick shout out to Crystal and Steven Spice. Just bring that fully up. Crystal posted on her Facebook page and shared on a bunch of different groups. A big thank you to Scumbags Wrestling and myself. So I want to also pass this on to all our fans. The big thank you from her. I'm going to bring down that banner so it's not hiding everything. But we did end up making our promised donation of $500 from the sale of t-shirts that you can get on our Pro Wrestling Tees page. You can also personally email me if you want one of the posters. But as you see here, Crystal is giving a lovely shout out to us for supporting Steven and the Steven's Wrestling Journey, Steven's Hearts for Carrie, all which are things going for fundraising at Sick Kids Foundation. And if you want to donate personally to it, you can go to fundraise.sickkidsfoundation.com/StevensHearts/home, and they'll be able to set you up with a way of making a donation. You can also go to Pro Wrestling Tees, ProWrestlingTees.com, and not only do we have our site at ProWrestlingTees.com/ScumbagsWrestling, where you can get the indie comic book cover saluting 22 stars of the independent wrestling scene, designed by Nigel Lewis from our page, but you can also go over to ProWrestlingTees.com/Pro Wrestling Junkies, and they have Steven's 3 t-shirt. Both t-shirts are available at Pro Wrestling Tees and are $21.99. And the money going from the purchase of this is helping out Steven's Hearts for Carrie over at Sick Kids Hospital in Toronto. So they are definitely a worthwhile cause and some really great t-shirts. So go get out there, support Steven the best way you can, and get some great swag at the same time. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I'm going to check out now and wish you all a great night, and we'll be back with Fantasy Warfare Tournament next week. Until then, have a good one.